Hey, all I need is a bandana though. Check this out. Hey, Holmes.
My name's
Are
Jeff.
you ta are you talking to my essay? I'm assuming you can hear me just fine.
I can just making. Jeez, that took forever. Just making sure YouTube heard all
Ah,
that, but.
good. Yeah, your mom. No,
What about my
for real
mother?
though. Your mother.
Yeah, she's on a cruise to Hawaii right now. I'm very mad at her. I had to wake up at
Your
yeah, I had to wake up at 3 in the morning to take her to the airport.
damn. Hell yeah. What, dude? Who the fuck do you think?
Anyway, welcome everyone to this late but very good episode of the Average Intelligence Podcast. I apologize in advance, I'm very tired. But this podcast is brought to you by all the podcasts on the Arte Podcast Pantheon Network, and there are more coming soon. We actually counted six that are going to be coming in the next few months. And also by our friends at Pogo. We'll talk more about them in a moment. But tonight, as promised, because you saw the thumbnail and maybe you read the description and you're here for it. Hang on. Where the fuck did I? There it is. That's what I wanted. The live chat wasn't up. We're going to go through the Trump executive orders. At the very least, on the first day, he's done some subsequent ones, but I didn't have as much time as I wanted to research them today. So you get the first one. So most of these are fairly straightforward, and he probably will not have any trouble with. But for those of you who don't know, so let's just get cracking. Was it a good day with her
Bracken.
followed by? So the first one apparently was a proclamation on flying flags at half staff. So President Biden ordered flags to be flown at half staff after the death of former President Jimmy Carter, and this included on election day. Now Trump obviously did not like that, so he signed an executive order dictating that flags will be flown at full staff no matter what's happening on election day. Because I was real mad. So yeah, that's a thing that happened. I find it interesting though that was the first executive order he
So
signed.
I have half staff, like because of an executive order, because of that. Well, like,
No,
what
no, no,
was the
no, no.
purpose of it?
It says the executive order dictates that the flag will be flown at full staff on election day, no matter what.
Why wouldn't it not be?
Because it was a memorial period for Jimmy Carter, who died.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
See,
so
you probably said this, and I just
I
wasn't
did.
here.
And then the next one was an executive order rescinding other executive orders. Um, it removed 78 executive orders and memoranda from issued during the previous administration, many having to do with DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, and climate stuff. So that was, and I mean, Trump can do that. Both of these Trump can do fully. Although it's interesting because the Constitution doesn't actually lay out executive orders at all. But given precedent and how past presidents of both parties have done it, these are things that Trump can do because they do not violate current legislation or the Constitution, and they only direct at federal agencies, which are under the control of the executive branch. So the next one, executive order on freedom of speech. He the order title was literally restoring freedom of speech and ending federal censorship. It claimed that the Biden administration trampled free speech rights by censoring American speech on online platforms under the guise of combating disinformation and misinformation. The order directs the Attorney General to investigate federal policies of the past 4 years and recommend appropriate remedial action. So,
Amen. Seriously, that's been an issue for how long now? Like,
4 years.
oh, I mean, obviously, I mean, even in Trump's first presidency, it was kind of an issue
Yeah, it
because like
was.
there were all kinds of sites that were taking down things, whatnot. It's like, yeah, we're sick of the the
Well,
bullshit.
what's interesting too is I saw Trump's White House press secretary announce that they're offering credentials for White House briefings to alternative media sources, new media sources. All you have to do, I believe the website is whitehouse.gov/new media. You fill out a little questionnaire and you're basically applying for press credentials for White House briefings. And I'm sure they're going to look at anybody who applies, they're going to look at audience size. But like if you have a journalist podcast or a website, and I really, really hope that the Onion applies. I really hope the Onion applies. That would be hilarious.
It's been a while since I've heard anything from them. Like I know they're probably still active, but
They are. And I heard about something, which I don't know how new this is, but apparently they submitted something to the Supreme Court, and one paragraph is nothing but Latin legal jargon. It's great. It's so great. Yeah, Babylon Bee's kind of taken center stage lately, but the Onion is still out there. It's good stuff. The next one, executive order on the quote weaponization of government. It directs the Attorney General to identify and take appropriate action to correct supposed political motivated law enforcement activity at the Department of Justice, the SEC, that's the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Federal Trade Commission. The order also calls on the director of the NSA to do the same with regard to the intelligence community. So, as long as it's actually staying nonpartisan, I actually really like this. We'll see. But the language of the annotated order that I'm reading actually, it on its face, it really sounds like he's just trying to get revenge on people that went after him. But there was lawfare. I don't think that's really disputable at this point.
agreed.
Then there was a memorandum ending remote work for federal employees, which this is really stupid that he had to sign an executive order to do this. But federal
Well,
employees of the executive,
nobody wanted to bring anyone back in. Like everybody was okay with that. You can't have I don't know if you agree with remote work or not.
I
Like
think it
some
depends
of
on the
it's
job.
okay.
I think it depends
Yeah.
on the job. And
But
my
if it's
whole
like sitting there waiting on customers to call in, I'm sorry, you need to be sitting somewhere. You don't need to be sitting at your house.
Well,
Like,
see, actually, I think you can do that job. As I'm a fan of remote work for certain jobs, but here's the problem that I have with this. So if you work for the federal government, you either need to go to the office or they need to sell the office building. I'll take either one. But they had these office buildings that are owned by the federal government and they're just sitting empty because people are remote. Like there's
and
something
I'm
like
good
it.
with that. I
Yeah,
agree. I agree with that. That makes sense, a lot of sense.
yeah. There was something like only 6% of federal employees were showing up to like their actual job on location full time for a while. Now, again,
Dude,
actually, no, I don't get it during COVID, but that was
there
a
was a
thing that
ton
was
of them that
happening.
were getting busted for doing practices or for basically not actually being at the computer and being on
Yeah.
vacation and shit like that. Like there's
So
so much
that's
evidence.
yeah, that's the part of remote work that I don't really like. And I guess it depends on how good are you at your job? Because here's the thing, if you're getting stuff done and you're taking care of like if you take 5 minutes to go do a load of laundry or something, I really don't care. But if you're delivering, so it's like I'm okay with remote work in concept, but you have to earn it. Is my whole unless
Mhm.
you if your job is remote from day one and it's agreed upon, then it's whatever. That's between you and the employer. But
I also think that regardless, like it's good to get out of the house, people. Get out of
I
the
agree.
house.
Yeah, it
Seriously.
is. It is. Although, to be fair, I wish I could be doing this full time,
Well,
all
that
day,
would be
every day.
different because
Yeah.
when you weren't doing it, you'd be out of the
I was
house.
going to say I'd be getting out of the house more often, actually. But so the next one is a memorandum limiting new regulations. So the regulatory freeze pending review, Trump ordered all executive departments and agencies not to propose any new rule or directive until a department head reviews or approves it, which is funny because then Trump goes on to uh, create a bunch more rules and directives. So he violated his own executive order subsequently. But I mean, I guess this is really a fluff executive order. Um, because I mean, they can still do it. They just have to a department head has to approve and review it. But you would think they would have to do that already. You would think. I don't know. Maybe I'm off. Am I off base? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe things are happening. So the next one was a federal hiring freeze, which I'm okay with this. Effective at noon on January 20th, with some exceptions, including the military and persons related to immigration enforcement, national security, or public safety. It asks the Director of Office Management and Budget to submit a plan within 90 days to reduce the size of the federal government's workforce through efficiency improvements and attrition. At which point, hiring freeze will be lifted except for the IRS, which is to be frozen indefinitely for new hires.
Yeah, dude. Like I'm fairly certain he's gonna abolish the IRS and replace it with the ERS. What is it? Is that right? The ERS?
Yeah, the external
External
revenue
external
service.
revenue. Yeah, because the funny thing is, it's like that's how we used to run our government, and that's one of our most prosperous eras was when we were running on tariffs.
And a lot of people will
So
say to
why are
them,
we making our taxpayers pay it?
well, a lot of people will say to that, it's like, well, but the government budget was smaller then, and I'm like, yeah,
That's
that's
the point.
that's kind of the point. It's like, yeah, that was the deal. That was the thing that happened. We'll see. My only issue with that is if he does it too fast, it might shock the system a little bit. But if it's gradual, I'm for it because I would like to at the end of all this, I would like there to be a government surplus finally, so that you know good stuff can be done. But
Dude,
yeah,
they've already taken out so much spending. $50 million. I don't know if you heard this yet, but Trump literally stopped it. I don't know if Trump did, but one of his
somebody did.
hold on, one of his what is it, Doge,
Yeah.
his new and then MEB or something like that. They found $50 million going to Gaza for
Mm.
condoms,
Sure.
for condoms.
See, I believe that. And then here's the other thing though, is I forget which podcast we did, but I found out in real time.
That was from his new press secretary in a live setting,
Yeah,
so
yeah. But I actually
I
found
don't
I
think she was
found
in on live.
yeah. I found this out in real time though. I found out that the federal government for the first time in American history became the largest employer in the country under the Biden administration.
Yeah,
So
87,000 new employees,
yeah, I'm all
which they
for
didn't hire that many. They were just given authority to hire that many.
no. It became officially the highest the largest employer in the
Oh no, I was
country.
talking about the 87,000 for the
Oh
IRS
yeah,
that they
yeah.
added. They hadn't
Oh
hired all
yeah.
those people, but they were
Yeah.
starting to.
Yeah. The next one is a memorandum on emergency price relief. So Trump directed executive departments and agencies to implement so-called emergency price relief measure to lower the cost of housing, healthcare, food, and fuel costs, as well as to create employment opportunities for workers. No specific measures were outlined, but the memorandum calls for the assistant to the president for economic policy to report every 30 days on the status of implementation. And actually, so basically, what this is going to amount to is a lot of cutting of red tape because many experts have pointed to one of the biggest causes of home prices rising is lack of inventory. And one of the biggest reasons of lack of inventory, especially in places like California and big cities with a lot of municipal rules, is I learned this today. Apparently, for the average home building permit to get started, most builders wait 24 months to get approval before they can they buy the developers, not builders. So the developer buys the land
Mm.
and
Yeah.
they have to wait 24 months to get approved to start breaking ground. That's
Honestly,
insanity.
honestly, developers deserve that. They're the ones building all those freaking vanilla homes and those big old freaking circles. What do they call those in uh
Cul-de-sacs?
cul-de-sac? Yeah, yeah, with the cul-de-sacs and whatnot. Like it's not like back in the 50s and 60s, like those types of homes, whatnot. It's like those cracker box homes. Like
Well,
don't get me
I'm
wrong, they're still nice, whatnot, but
yeah.
like that's literally those land developers sell those that kind of shit,
Well,
and then people
yeah.
go in there and they have these shitty homes. But
Yeah.
anyway.
Well, another thing, and I think we're going to see this. This actually, I learned a lot today. Actually, and apparently this goes all the way back to the 2008 financial crisis. So when that happened, the only people that were buying homes were the ultra wealthy. So builders were incentivized to create like what would you call that? Like not ritzy, like I'm blanking on the word. What would you call that? Like premium homes, like super high end homes. So most of the new houses that were being built were considered like high end homes in most places in the United States at that time.
Lavish.
Lavish,
Lavish. No.
yes, lavish. So I think the other thing, which finally, fun fact, the person that bought my land finally started developing it. There's still a tractor out there, but they dug some big holes, tore down the
What are
fence.
the obviously they're gonna build a house.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, they probably are like, hey man, we're in a area that's getting ready to get redone. Might as well build over here.
I mean, I had a feeling that's what they were going to do, but they damaged my fence, so I'm waiting for them to. It's not that bad, but I'm waiting
You
for
have a
them
nice
to.
fence though.
Yeah, what they did was and I know how they did it too. Like, so where the gate is, it still latches, but they damaged one of the posts there. So I'm kind of waiting for them to be like, "Hey, can we put this board on for you?" And I'll be like, "Sure," because it's not that big of a deal, but they did damage my
You've gone
fence.
have you gone back and forth already? Like they
No,
know
I
about it, you
haven't.
know about it?
No, I haven't had a chance to catch them yet, and I'm not going to be a dick
Hmm.
about it. I'm just going to be like, "Hey, can please?"
Yeah, like you see this?
Yeah, I didn't do
Wasn't
that.
like that before.
You did. That broken fence over there begs to differ. But so yeah, hopefully we'll see some prices start going down. I don't think it's going to happen instantaneously, but hopefully it dwindles. Housing and energy is going to be big though, and I think there's a lot that Trump can do in the immediate. Did you freeze or are you just? Oh, you did freeze. You were sitting like you're like that for a minute. Oh god. But anyway, so the next one is Trump withdrew via this executive order from
NATO or
international climate agreements, including the Paris Climate Accord. Now, I actually had some
again,
questions. I had some questions about this though, because being the curious and astute son of a bitch that I am, I asked
son
myself,
of a
well,
bitch.
if this is an international treaty, I know that the president can negotiate treaties, but with approval from the Senate. So I didn't even know if Trump could legally do. I assumed he could because he's done it before, but so I looked at the old handy dandy Constitution and found out the president's authority over treaties and international agreements is that, quote, he shall have power by and with the advice and consent of the Senate to make treaties provided two-thirds of the Senate present concur. Presently, there is no Supreme Court ruling whether the president has power to break a treaty without approval of Congress. It remains unclear which branch of government is empowered by the Constitution to terminate a treaty, much less the procedure for doing so. In practice, a president may terminate a treaty unilaterally if permitted by said treaty's terms. So then I looked at the Paris Climate Accord, and sure enough, Article 28 of that agreement says at any time after 3 years from the date on which this agreement has entered into force for a party, that party may withdraw from this agreement by giving written notification to the depository, which is exactly what Trump did. So, yes, Trump can legally withdraw.
Sorry, Congress.
I don't think anybody was kicking that much of a fuss up this time, but I think previously they probably were.
Well, considering how much we spend on it versus everybody else, it's like, come on, guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were pretty big benefactors. So, anyway, next
Same with
one.
the World Health Organization. Keep going. I know
Oh,
you're
I
probably
got.
getting there.
Oh, yeah. There's that got interesting. The next one was a proclamation pardoning January 6th. And see, the article says Capitol rioters. I'm not going to use that word, but people who were arrested during January 6th. So he pardoned everyone, though. I don't know that I agree with all that because there were some
It
people
seemed
there
like
that
a
were.
blanket pardon.
It was a blanket pardon. However,
Actually, well, go ahead. I was going to say one of the dudes that got pardoned actually was killed not too long ago. Not like because of anyone killed him or whatnot, but like he got into an altercation and got shot like
yeah,
literally not long after he got out. I was like, that sucks.
yeah. So here's the thing: I would have preferred, and I understand the need to expedite this because some of these people have been in prison since then. Um, I would have liked to have
Which who
seen,
literally just walked through an open door.
Well, yeah, and that's
Some of
the
them, not
other.
all.
That's the thing. I would have liked to have seen was a release on no bail and then a case review for everyone. So it's like you're getting out of prison, but you're not necessarily out of the woods yet. But given how many people there were, I kind of understand a blanket pardon here. Not gonna lie, it's not ideal, but again, give it's 1,500 over 1,500 people got their sentences pardoned. So that's a lot of people.
Well, the only victims on that day, like true victims, like that were actually hurt, was Ashley Babbitt. So, I mean,
Yeah.
did anyone else get hurt
So,
or,
so yeah,
any
some people were
minor
assaulted.
injuries?
Well, they got hurt. She was the only one that was killed directly because of it. Yeah.
So what I mean is like nothing like truly bad happened that day. Why was somebody in prison for 4 years? Like,
Well, no, I mean, I saw video. There were people that were hitting cops, and that's not cool. But
oh no,
given
I didn't see that.
given oh yeah, I was watching it happen live. But given the massive fuckery that happened after that, I can understand why you would do a blanket pardon for that many people. It's not like there were six people. There over 1,500 got charged. Not all of them
Yeah,
were in prison, but or jail. I shouldn't say prison, but let's see. Next one. Executive order delaying the TikTok ban. So he's giving ByteDance 75 days to figure out something in divestment, which I really hope they do. Not because of TikTok, but because I lost CapCut and I was like a fish without fins. I was like a bird without feathers. It was fucking terrible. I edit
CapCut's owned by
everything.
TikTok.
It's owned by ByteDance, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I gotta say, I use CapCut for everything editing wise. So I really hope they can figure something out because I don't want to lose my cap cut again. It was bad.
I don't think you will.
I don't think I will either. I think it's pretty clear they're going to figure something out, but for all you people that that deleted TikTok or CapCut, you're stupid.
Yeah, like why would you delete an app so fast? Like Trump was literally getting ready to be elected and said he would do something, and
Yeah,
then
he
people
was
still deleted
literally
it.
saying, and they're like, he's like, I'm going to do something, and they're like, oh my god, no, I'm going to delete it. I was like, I'm going to keep it on my phone forever because worst case scenario, I'll just get a VPN.
That's what I was telling everybody. I was like, get a VPN and just say you're in Europe.
Which, by the way, it works. I may or may not have used CapCut for a couple days using a VPN. The reason I hesitated with it was I wasn't sure it would work with the pro version that I paid for, but it does. Totally does. I was afraid it was going to sign me out if I used a VPN, but it didn't.
Well, because your name has nothing to do with your location. So the thing
Mm-hmm.
is, if you're on vacation, you're going to be outside the states or so whatever, like if you're, yeah, you know
Is
what I mean.
exactly. Well, the thing is, they wouldn't even know because it's routing through a different server. So
Egg salad,
egg salad. I love
egg
that.
salad.
So here's you go. So the executive order withdrawing from the World Health Organization. So I had very much the same question. Can Trump, since it's a division of it's part of the UN, so I figured that would be trickier, but for everyone, now again, there's some gray area here, but this what I have written down is it seems Trump can order the USA to leave the WHO, even though it's an agency of the UN. Trump is not leaving the UN, therefore he's not leaving a treaty. It's also worth noting that the United States funded 22% of the total WHO budget in fiscal year 2024-2025. It had a total
Dude,
funding budget. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the whole world is embezzling our money, essentially. Like,
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
it's technically
not
not embezzling.
we're embezzling our own money into these things, and I guarantee all those politicians have their greedy hands in it.
I'm sure, but the WHO had a total funding budget that year of $6.8 billion. So the US contributed just shy of 1.5 billion, which actually I kind of figured it was more, if I'm going to be honest. I figured it was more money.
That's still a lot of
That's a
money.
lot of money, but in the scope of the entire planet,
Considering how everybody treated COVID and everything, Nobody deserves any money.
That's my thing because here's the thing: in a vacuum, I can understand why withdrawing from something like the WHO would be considered bad, but after COVID, dude, I'm like, what are we like? Don't get me wrong, the WHO does a lot of really good stuff for the third world, but I
I
just yeah.
I said if people weren't dropping dead in the streets, I said we don't need to change anything. Like I was like, if this was like a 27 days later situation, yeah, shut
Well,
the
and
motherfucker down.
so here's my thing, and I said this at the time. Actually, I said it in our
Hold on
episode.
one sec. I gotta ask you a question. Are we any sponsorships that we should keep clean language for
Um,
this specific podcast?
oh, you know what? Let me look again just to be sure.
I just want to make
No,
sure.
you're good. You're good.
Okay, just in case. I just turn on the filter. All right, go ahead, man. Sorry.
Oh, so I said this at the time, and I said the reason they shot themselves in the foot, figuratively speaking, with COVID was I said, okay, but when we have like a really bad, like if we had an Ebola outbreak, people don't trust you now. And like, here's the thing: if there's an Ebola outbreak, absolutely everybody should stay home. Like,
Hmm.
absolutely. But now nobody trusts you. So like they
Yeah.
tried this crap during the election. They were like, "Oh, there's a SARS epidemic," and everybody was like, "Okay,
Oh,
all right."
and on top of that, the efficacy of the shots versus natural immunity and everything coming out with that stuff, and they were trying to say that the shots were better, and I was like, no, nothing's
Well,
better
my
than natural
well,
immunity.
and my favorite
Nothing.
thing though is everybody's out there saying now, and you can see the videos where they're like, "See if you can figure who I'm talking about." I never said that, and then they cut to a video of I'm saying this exact thing. It's like, come on, guys.
Somebody the funny thing is about Fauci, he and all them, they can still be prosecuted on a state level if they're
Oh,
pardoned,
on a
because
state
a
level, yes.
yeah, because pardon only counts federally, correct?
Yes, but I think Fauci would be outside of that jurisdiction
I don't
because he
know.
acted in a federal capacity, and
I don't
technically,
think I'm getting people confused. I don't think it was Fauci. It was someone else. I can't remember what it's. But
well, because
Putin wants to collect Fauci on crimes against humanity.
but based on what jurisdiction though? Russia didn't even use any of those
I don't know.
vaccines.
I don't know. It's just something I read.
Yeah, that's I read
I
that,
couldn't
and
tell you.
I'm like,
It
yeah,
ain't gonna
that's
happen.
that's not
It's
worth
not
the
gonna
that's
happen.
not worth the paper it's written. That would be okay, okay, yeah, okay. So we're gonna indict Putin for crimes against humanity. Okay, it doesn't mean
You
anything.
which crimes though? We know what Fauci did.
Oh, trust
I'm
me.
not saying Putin's not a monster. Don't get me wrong, but on
Take your
paper,
pick.
what do we have? I
Uh,
don't know. I don't know enough about the guy.
I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole.
All right.
I wanna live. The next one was an executive order on hiring and firing federal employees.
Hmm.
It restores and amends the executive order from his first term that rescinds Biden's executive order that effectively makes it easier to hire and fire certain federal servants with an eye towards loyalty. Trump's order makes it easier to hire and fire. Uh, the addendum to the reinstatement states, quote, employees in or applicants for schedule policy slash career positions are not required to personally or politically support the current president or policies of the current administration. They are required to faithfully, and wait a minute, hang on.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute. Hang
okay.
on.
No, that's not what it says. I was confused. Consistent failure to do so. Oh, okay. I got you. Okay. They are required to faithfully implement administration policies to the best of their ability, consistent with their constitutional oath and the vesting of executive authority solely in the president. Failure to do so is grounds for dismissal. So, based on that language, I think a lot of people are misreading this because they're making it sound like, oh, Trump's going to fire everybody that's not a lackey. It's like, no, technically, if this is to be believed, which trust me, Trump's petty enough that I think he would fire somebody for not supporting him, but the language here suggests that he would be able to fire somebody who's refusing to carry out orders dictated to by a federal agency or by the president, who is the chief executive of the country. So I don't think this is so much, and I could be wrong here, but I don't think this is so much Trump wanting to fire people that aren't loyal to him. I think it's just he wants. to eliminate the stoppage of his policy because that certainly happened to him in his first term.
Yeah, he got
So,
stonewalled a lot.
yeah, but by federal agencies, which theoretically should not happen unless it's a grounds of like
Well,
constitutional or exceeding executive authority. But that's handled through the courts. So I mean,
yeah,
you can whistleblow and file suit for sure, but like just saying no, we're not going to do this as a federal agency, and that's real tough because there's a lot of things in the Trump administration that I wouldn't agree with personally, but I don't. I think at that point I would just quit. So I don't know. Anyway, there was an executive order revoking security clearances for more than 4 dozen former intelligence officials, including Trump's first-term national security advisor John Bolton, who signed a 2020 letter saying that that he published information purportedly from one of Hunter Biden's laptops has the aspects of a Russian information operation. So yeah, some people are just losing security, but it seems like they're all former people that worked in intelligence. So it's like, yeah, you can't use your security clearance for your private contracting job now.
yeah, for real.
The next one was a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border. Trump declared a national emergency that calls for military personnel and resources to help secure the southern border, including through additional physical barriers as well as drones. Now, I
What up,
you're,
Toast?
oh, what's up, Toast? Evening, gentle, sir, fair gentlemen. That's the word. I blanked on the word gentleman for a second. I'm very
Easy,
tired.
gentle.
I'm what up? I'm not really sure of the total legalities because the rules about the president being able to use American troops on domestic soil is really vague. Um, my guess is this is going to be challenged in the courts, and it's just going to. I don't know. I don't know how that one's going to turn out. I'm not sure of the legality of it, if I'm being honest. I know Trump is justifying it by labeling it an invasion, but the legal definition of an invasion refers to an adversarial nation's armed forces, not unchecked immigration. Now that's the legal, and it could be redefined. So I don't know, but he's declared an emergency at the southern border, so that happened, and that's
Man,
the thing. That in and of itself, I don't really have a problem with, but it's some of the other stuff that I do.
yeah, the deported some of them were on video like when they were on the buses heading back and they were like telling people that were trying to make their way up here, they was like, don't go up there. There's no point. You're just gonna get
Yeah,
brought right back. And
yeah.
there's like too much migra. Oh,
But
it's the migra.
the next one, what you guys take on Canada becoming the 51st? Okay, if Canada does join the United States, I think it's silly to make the entire country of Canada the 51st state. How many
Yeah, it
provinces
would
are
have to be
there?
like it would
I
have to
think
be
there's
more
like,
than one.
are there like you can tell me this, Toast? How many provinces are in Canada? I think there's like 11 or 12, right? Or maybe there's 13. Why am I thinking 13? I don't know, but I think each individual province, 10 provinces, yeah. So I think each province would just be admitted as a state. Because I brought this up too. Trump would actually be very foolish to bring Canada in and three territories. Yeah, okay, so those would be territories and the provinces would be states. But if you were to bring the entire country of Canada in as a state, then it would be a bigger blue state than California.
I don't know. Yeah, it'd be a huge blue state. Like so, like no, I'm sorry. Canada can stay where it is because like besides our brother here, Toast, like there's a lot
I
of
think here's the thing though. I think if you break it down by provinces and add them to the electoral college system, I think it would even out a bit more. Because I got to believe there are some provinces that are probably the more rural. Like I don't know, Toast. How you think? Oh, that's true. Not with Polyev, and yeah, but
yeah, he's I've watched a lot with him and he's a
well,
breath of fresh air.
he's not exactly in Camp Trump though.
No, he's not, but the thing is that's okay with me. I
Yeah,
don't care. Like
that's fine.
as long as he runs
I gotta figure Alberta would lean a
Cal
little conservative.
California light.
It won't be Cal. Oh no, actually, you'd be double. California. You'd be California times two with population alone.
You guys
So
be
yeah,
Omega California.
yeah. So if you never want a Republican president or Congress again, bring Canada in as the
Alberta's
51st
Canadian
state.
Texas.
I figured, yeah, I figured. I just think it's really dope that there's a dinosaur named after Alberta because it was discovered there. Albertosaurus. It's real cool, eh? Let's see. Memorandum on resolving delayed security clearances. So apparently, there are a bunch of security clearances that were taking a long time. So this calls for TSSCI security clearances for a period not to exceed 6 months and address supposed backlogs that have prevented workers' access to the White House complex infrastructure and technologies. Some have criticized the move for lacking transparency. Quote, the only cases where this would apply, obviously, are to people who did not qualify for the top secret security clearance. Journalist Roger Sullenberger posted on X. Quote, also, will the public be able to know who gets the special Trump clearance, or will the list be private? That's a valid question, but I guess we'll see. And number three, memorandum on trade. So Trump issued an executive order addressed to multiple cabinet secretaries, the U.S. Trade Representative, the Assistant to the President for Economic Policy, the Senior Counselor for Trade and Manufacturing, and the Director of the Office of Management and Budget. The memorandum stipulates that, quote, unfair and unbalanced trade should be addressed, directing cabinet officials to look into trade and tariff policies, including those with China. However, Trump can legally do this. He can issue this executive order, but it doesn't necessarily do anything up front. It depends on what aspect of trade a federal agency wants to tackle. For example, the executive branch doesn't have free reign to impose tariffs without Congress necessarily. Trump can lobby tariffs for national security reasons, but for economic reasons, that requires Congress.
Well, since they have the House and the Senate, I don't think it'd probably be too
I
hard to
it
get that.
probably not. What I'm just all I'm saying is the executive branch can't do this on its own. And God damn it, the Speaker of the House, I know his name too. I'm just
Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. Thank you. Mike Johnson has already said that they will not be doing anything to, at least the House won't be doing anything to, you know, not go along with Trump's policies, which I kind of don't like. But I just don't like blindly following one man. I don't like it. It's a little too kingly for my taste.
Well, to be fair, he's not the one writing up all these. He's getting memos and meetings, and they're going on with the whole team. So it's not like a whole bunch of, I mean, it's not just one person making decisions, it's one person signing it. It's a whole team. That's the difference between Trump and everybody. He's always had a team. Like everybody thinks he makes all his decisions. I feel like that dude has a whole like cabinet of people. Like I mean, outside of the White House, he had a whole cabinet of people. I gotta stop eating.
Yeah. Well, so there's actually I didn't realize this had more on the tariffs. So while the US Constitution grants to Congress the power to levy tariffs on goods, Congress has delegated some of that power to the executive branch over time. The Constitution states in Article 1, Section 8 that, quote, the Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. Congress
What up,
passed
nephew?
general. What's that? Oh, your nephew. Yeah, my Virginia girlfriend is quite upset because Trump is making federal workers to work go to the office. She works in the NSF. She literally works in the DEI department. She's gonna get fired. Yeah. Actually, there haven't been, at least as far as I know, there haven't been a lot of firings. There has been restructured and shifting of job titles. So I don't know. But let's see. Congress passed general tariff legislation until the early 1930s in a move to grant more flexibility to the president to revitalize global trade in the midst of the Great Depression. Congress gave the executive branch the power to negotiate tariff reductions within levels pre approved by Congress through the Reciprocal Trade Agreement Act of 1934. President FDR became the first president to have authority to levy tariffs and negotiate bilateral trade agreements without the approval of Congress, a Democrat. Yeah, and a lot of paid. Sorry to push it. No, you're good, dude. Comments tell YouTube that people are engaged. Comment away. Plus, it makes my job easier. The executive branch has continued to exercise a level of authority over tariffs over the past few decades. In 1962, President Kennedy signed into law the Trade Expansion Act, which allows the president to adjust tariffs based on threats to national security under Section 232. This is the authority under which President Trump imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum, which have a vast impact on some
You
of the
are the
United States.
moderator.
You are the moderator. Uh,
I am the moderator.
I'm the moderator. Get
I
out of here.
am
Look
the.
at my boobies, Jack. Uh, I'm gonna read the rest of it as Arnold.
Look at them.
Look at them. God damn it, where was I? This is the authority under which President Trump imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum, which have a vast impact on some of the United States' biggest trading partners and many U.S. industries. Since the beginning of the year, there have been bipartisan efforts in Congress to try and rein some of the power that was delegated to the executive branch to regulate trade. This is from the Yeta Institute. That's exactly the voice I said. Sorry, I'm the moderator. Oh no,
You
that's
sound
the
like
one of
we could bring jobs back to California.
people air.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
One of my favorite lines from Kindergarten Cop that's often forgotten is when he goes to talk to that witness at the party where everybody's on drugs. He's like, "Who are you, man?" And he shoots the wall. "I'm the party pooper."
The popcorn pooper. You see, he said popcorn just came out of his nose.
Why did you have popcorn in your nose?
He was laughing and it kept.
Are you eating other people's lunches? Stop it! Ah. Then we have an executive order on plans for troop deployment at the border. Trump signed an executive order titled Clarifying the Military's Role in Protecting the Territorial Integrity of the United States, which effectively authorizes the U.S. military to create a plan that would deploy troops to the southern border. Only problem is that Trump's justification for doing this is the Insurrection Act of 1807. The problem is that it's very vague as a law. The act empowers the United States President to call into service the U.S. Armed Forces and National Guard when requested by a state's legislature or governor if the legislature cannot be convened to address an insurrection against the state, or to address an insurrection in any state which makes it impracticable to enforce the law, or to address an insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy in any state which results in the deprivation of the constitutionally secured rights and where the state is unable, fails, or refuses to protect said rights. The 1807 Act replaced the earlier Calling Forth Act of 1792, which had allowed for federalization of state militias, with similar language that allowed either for federalization of state militias to use of the regular armed forces in the case of rebellion against the state government. The act did not provide a criminal penalty for insurrection, which was instead introduced in the Confiscation Act of 1862. The 1807 Act has been modified twice, once in 1861 with a new section added allowing for the federal government to use the National Guard and armed forces against the will of the state government in the case of, quote, rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States in anticipation of continued unrest after the Civil War, which this would be similar to what Dwight D. Eisenhower used in Arkansas when they were ordered to desegregate schools, and then the governor of that state was like, "We ain't letting no black people in here," so we sent in the National Guard and said, "Fuck you, let them in school." And then in 1871, the Third Enforcement Act revised this section to protect Black Americans from attacks by the Ku Klux Klan. The language added at that time allows the federal government to use the act to enforce equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. That's ironic. The chief clause of the Insurrection Act, in its original 1807 wording, which has been updated, but it reads an act authorizing the employment of the land and naval forces of the United States in case of insurrections, be it enacted by the Senate or House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that in all cases of insurrection or obstruction to the laws either of the United States or any individual state or territory, where it is lawful for the President of the United States to call forth the militia for the purpose of suppressing such insurrection, or of causing the laws to be duly executed, it shall be lawful for him to employ, for the same purposes, such part of the land or naval force of the United States as shall be judged necessary, having first observed all the prerequisites of the law in that respect.
In one day, all of this will be yours. What, the accountants?
Whenever the President considers the unlawful obstructions, combinations, or assemblages or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in the state in the ordinary course of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such militia of any state and use of the armed forces as he considers necessary to enforce those laws to suppress the rebellion. Now, the question is whether or not the influx of illegal immigration constitutes an insurrection. So this is, I think, what's going to be argued in the courts.
It's all
So,
going to be argued.
well, we'll see. I don't know that. And my biggest problem with that is that
They're
it's a
fighting to hold
slippery.
on to their power.
Well, no, but here my thing is that's a slippery slope. So let's say Trump wins this argument and it becomes precedent that the president can just declare anything an insurrection. So what's to stop a conversely, let's say that happened during Trump's first term. Let's say he won that case. Well, when January 6th happens, Joe Biden can call in federal troops to suppress the insurrection. And that means guns.
Pew
So
pew.
I'm so I'm just saying, so I'm just saying don't cheer quite yet because
I'm just saying.
I'm just I love that. That's good. Then there was an executive order on energy that directs immediate review of agency activities that, quote, potentially burden the development of domestic energy resources, particularly natural gas, coal, hydropower, biofuels, critical mineral, and nuclear energy resources. That's a good Trump. That gets a stamp of approval. It also revokes 12 Biden era regulatory actions related to clean energy initiatives and orders federal agencies to, quote, immediately pause the disbursement of funds from the Inflation Reduction Act. See, I'm kind of with you, Toast. I don't think that necessarily counts as an insurrection because insurrection defined is pretty clear. Now, what I do consider this is the lack of is the previous administration just not doing its job.
Mhm.
It does count as oh, you just said it. It does count as weak border policy. But you know what's not weak, folks? Listen, if you enjoy this podcast, you know we have a lot of fun doing this. But what if I told you there were 13 and soon to be more podcasts that not just like this one? Because let's face it, nobody's like us. Nobody else has a chimp for a mascot except Robbie Williams. We're coming for you, fucker. Expect to hear from our attorneys when we get some money.
I was getting eaten alive.
I know, dude. They really
Everyone's like,
came
he's
for
so
you.
checked out. I was just like, I was like, it's a British movie, and it's not even British. What are they,
I was going to
Australian?
say I was corrected. It was an Australian film about a British man. So,
And I was like, okay, cool.
but yes, check out this and then, of course, the Arte podcast and all the other podcasts, artemedia.org. First link in the description. You'll find something you like, and there's more coming. So, check that out. Let's see here. Then, okay, so this is one I kind of I really had a problem with this, and then I did a little bit more research. I have less of a problem with it. I just think it's a little too much. Exactly. First, we're number one. We were the first. We started it all. Oh, it's artemedia.org, Toast. Artemedia.com takes you to some lame ass. I don't even know what they do. Yeah, it's org. But
Stop
um,
with the shit tossing, or it's getting old. Oh, I fucked that up.
I got the reference though.
Stop with the shit talking. It's getting old.org or whatever. I think .com. That's a great movie.
Get it.com.
Love.
Um, so the next executive order suspends refugee resettlement. My initial note was he can do this, but it shouldn't be up to one person to do. Turns out it's technically not up to one person, but it is up to the executive branch only. And I don't like refugees being turned away, just in general. I'm not saying don't screen them. I'm not saying don't do background checks, but I don't like the closing of refugees, particularly from countries where there's a lot of bad shit happening. I'm not a, there you go, Toast. I'm not a fan of that, but there's a few more people with their hands in the pie, and this can be brought up in review and approved by the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Homeland Security. But I don't know. I don't like the language, but it's not as bad as it sounds. It sounds much worse than it is. And then this is probably just the biggest. And for those of you who follow the podcast, I brought this up during the first Republican primary. Trump signed an executive order to redefine birthright citizenship, which is a blatant, clear, and irrefutable violation of the 14th Amendment. And before, because I know you're going to argue with me on this, before you bring that up, Vivek was saying the same shit on the stage, and I tore it apart then using the exact same logic. So
I don't know the
basically,
14th Amendment.
well, I lost my little Constitution book, but I
I
will read
had
it.
one too. Just
It was on my bookcase, but
I can't remember what it is.
don't worry, I can look it up because it's
Yeah.
in section one. Okay, so 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Section 1. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of these laws.
Didn't it say citizens?
No. Well, okay, I'll
Read
read it
that
again.
again.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law.
So essentially, what that sounds to me is if somebody comes in, they're not going to be killed or taken away. They're just going to be sent back with their things.
With due process, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my point. So, how would his, uh, how would that be, against his, executive order? I can't fucking speak.
Because he is trying to make people's
Yeah, yeah,
citizenship.
birthright citizenship. Yeah, they're saying it's going to end. Like, if now if one parent is legal and the other one's not, like, what about that
The
one?
way I understand it is if one parent is a citizen, then their child is a citizen. But that's irrelevant because that's not what the Constitution says. And Trump does not have the
Well,
authority.
the Constitution, the amendment basically says it's going to send them packing where they came from.
No, the
If from what you read to me, that's what I'm hearing. Because it
okay.
doesn't when it speaks of citizens, it says citizen, but it says any persons shall be not without due process. So the thing is, if they're processing them, then yeah, they're gonna. I don't know if they, but if they broke the law to get into the United States, then they're not a
But you
citizen
said,
at
but
all, and they're a criminal. Like I hate to say it like that because I know they just want a better life. I hate to say that shit.
well, but the thing of it is, the key there is due process,
What's up, Sosa?
and the amendment says, so no, he can't. He cannot amend the Constitution.
Oh,
He
no, not
cannot.
with an executive order.
No, he can't correct it either. Now, what's going to happen is this will end up getting taken up to the courts, but no, to amend the Constitution, that's Congress and the three-fourths ratification of all the states.
See,
I mean, that's the law.
that's a tough one, man, because like that 14th Amendment, exactly for what you read it, like it doesn't sound like
It's clear as day. It's written in plain English.
I listened to it. I didn't catch that from it. Like you read it twice.
Yeah. So here's
It
the thing.
said any person's due process. Like so they basically are saying you're going to get a fair trial
So
and you
this
know
is
whatnot. It's
this is an argument that happens a lot, usually from the right, unfortunately. But
make us understand it.
well, okay. So here's the problem, though, and there's differing schools of thought on this. In today, usually people who lean more to the right argue that the Constitution only applies to citizens. But if you read it, it does make distinctions between citizens and people, not just in the 14th Amendment. When I'm of the school of thought that when it says people, it means people, anybody
Mm.
residing in an area because it defines it as such.
But to be fair, it is we the people, right? Is that in the Constitution?
Yeah, it's the first three words.
So they're assuming that wouldn't that be safe to assume that it means citizens because we
No,
the people are the
no,
ones
because
who vote for our presidents and whatnot. It's not anyone outside of the country voting for our presidents. It's we the people.
well,
So when
okay,
they're
but if you're
mentioning
using
people or persons or anything like that, I know it's just jargon.
well,
That's
no,
why I'm
I'm gonna. It's
pushing
not
on
jargon.
this.
It's specifically written because here's the thing: when that was written, the only people that could vote were white landowning
Men.
males.
Oh, yeah.
So by virtue of that logic, women would never be. And okay,
The good old days.
before you attack me in the comments, I understand it wasn't fair, but by virtue of that logic, women wouldn't be entitled to due process under the Constitution. Now, prior to the Civil Rights Amendments and the Reconstruction, Black Americans were not protected in many ways by the Constitution. And the Dred Scott case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And basically, the ruling said that black people were not citizens of the United States and therefore were not subject to the protections therein. Since then, obviously, that has been corrected, thankfully. But my point is if the Constitution uses the word people and citizens non interchangeably, then when it says people, it means people. When it says citizens, it means because, for example, qualifications to be president of the United States, one of the requirements is that you are a natural born citizen.
Natural boy killer.
So, but anyway, there's some more. So just because okay, so the argument that some people are making, which I'm ashamed, and Ben Shapiro's in this camp, I'm actually ashamed of him. You went to law school, dude. You should know better. But Vivek Ramaswamy made the same argument. He's basically saying it's like, well, they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And I said at the time, if they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, then you cannot bring criminal charges against them. Because when it says, and there's, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's long and boring, but you can research it yourself so you know I'm not bullshitting you. One of the guys who helped draft the amendment spoke on this. Okay. The reason it says subject to the jurisdiction thereof is because this part of the Constitution does not apply to foreign diplomats and dignitaries who have children born in the US while they are there because those people are under the direct jurisdiction of another government. That is why they have diplomatic immunity while they're here. They cannot be prosecuted for crimes while they're in the United States because they are subjects of a foreign government. By virtue of that logic, if someone did come here illegally, they could not be prosecuted because they are not under the jurisdiction of the United States. And then much less for things like murder and, legitimate crimes that they absolutely should be arrested and tried for. So I'm like, yeah, go ahead, pursue this. And then after you win, you won't be able to take anybody to trial because they won't be subject to your jurisdiction. The Merriam Webster Dictionary defines jurisdiction as the power, right, or authority to interpret and apply the law, or the authority of a sovereign power, or the limits or territory within which authority may be exercised. From the legal dictionary, jurisdiction is defined as the authority given by law to a court to try cases and rule on legal matters within a particular geographic area and or over certain types of legal cases. Theoretically, toast, but not necessarily. It depends on the country in question. It depends on what their country's treaty and jurisdiction is like. Maybe the logic for diplomatic immunity is just not so much in the United States, but there are cases like you would want American diplomats to have diplomatic immunity abroad because they might violate some kind of law or statute that they just weren't aware of and they didn't know about it. So I can see the logic of it. And it's not my whole point is, oh, actually, I take that back. I have one more note. The clause's meeting with regard to a child of immigrants was tested in the case of United States churches versus, and don't laugh. Don't laugh at this, damn it, because I know you're going to. Was tested in the case United States versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898. Dude, you're gonna laugh.
Well, Wong King, what arc? Wong King arc?
I believe so. I'm
Wong
not a lawyer.
King
I just played
arc.
one on TV that one time.
Wong King arc. I feel like I'm speaking foreign, just trying to try to say it.
That's true. Most diplomats
Vom,
are nerds. Yeah, but
Vom,
so Wong Kim Ark. The Supreme
Vom.
the Supreme Court held that under the 14th Amendment, a man born in the United States to Chinese citizens who have a permanent domicile and residence in the United States and are carrying out business in the United States and whose parents were not employed in a diplomatic or other official capacity by a foreign power was a citizen of the United States. Subsequent
Like Guam.
decisions, well, Guam's a territory, so technically
I'm
you
just
are.
kidding.
Subsequent decisions have applied the principle to the children of foreign nationals of non Chinese descent throughout history. So that's why this has been precedent for over 100 years.
Precedent.
Well,
You
yeah,
heard
but
it here first.
well, I mean, legal precedent is a thing. That's often how cases are decided. So, yeah, Trump's not going to win that one. And if he does, I will actually support packing the Supreme Court because that will show that I don't think it will get that far, to be fair. But you heard it here. If it does get to the Supreme Court and they rule that Trump is right in his interpretation, um, yeah, pack the court because then that shows me that it's a corrupt institution and needs to be evened out politically. I don't think that's going to happen, but and then we got an executive order secure the U.S. Mexico border, which this is just he just removed several Biden era immigration policies, reinstating a lot of his own first term policies. Yeah. So again, I don't agree with a lot of this. I also really disagree with him ending the humanitarian parole for Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela because these were people that were legally they had legal status here through the parole program, and now he just did away with it. So, what's your
Well,
plan?
did you hear Tom Homan on because he was I don't know if he was directly responding to Selena Gomez. Did you see her little oh,
I
they're
did.
taking my people? And Tom Homan was like literally saying, "We're not taking families." He said we're taking people who are criminals, whatnot. And I don't know what he's
Well,
taking
that's
and whatnot.
so.
I
So
haven't
he
seen any of
says
the arrests personally. All I know is what they say on TV,
and
so I
and
can't be a
I haven't personally,
for
so I'm
sure.
taking this with a grain of salt because I did see there's a lot of misinformation coming out from both sides, but I don't think the Trump administration is helping themselves because my example I've been pointing to is a few days ago there was a video going around from a legitimate news outlet, but I saw it on TikTok, but it was from like Chicago News 6 or something. And they were like, I showed up at a school and the administration didn't let him in. Turns out it wasn't ICE, it was the Secret Service. They were investigating a threat to one of their protectees. So now I'm like, well, great. I don't know who to believe what now, although I did find it fishy because I just, but then
Wait,
I'm
who said this? And say that again.
some news outlet in Chicago.
Okay, all right. Never mind.
Yeah, it wasn't a random person, but then it came out. But here's the thing, and then I read an article today talking about how now ICE field offices are given daily quotas. for arrests they have to make, and that's if that's true, that's not good because that's going to guarantee to lead to a frivolous arrest because what they've been saying is that they're making targeted arrests with warrants and they know who they're looking for and they know roundabout where to find them, and that's fine. I because that's not in any violation of the law. I don't think that's particularly. Now where it gets into trouble is when they're violating people's rights allegedly by doing things like, I really don't like some of the deceptive practices they do. Like they'll use an administrative warrant, which is not a real warrant. You don't have to answer the door if they have an administrative warrant. They need a warrant signed by a judge and they need to show it to you before you are obligated to let them in or even answer the door. But they do these things to trick people, and I don't really like it. It's icky. I don't.
That's just cop behavior.
Well, yes and no, because the thing of it is, here's the difference though. Like I'm sure you've seen the video going around of these jackoffs who they're obviously not cops because they're fucking idiots. But they're talking to this guy who's standing at his door, and they're like, well, "We can show you the warrant; it's in the car." And he's like, "I'm not leaving my threshold." And I'm like, "Good on you, dude, because that's obviously a trap." But if they show you an administrative warrant, it is a warrant. It's just not worth the paper it's written on because it's an internal thing that they print up themselves. It's not issued by a judge. But if you
Yeah.
don't know that, it seems legitimate to you. And I think there's something that needs to be done legally about that because that seems like it should be illegal.
That's one of the good thing about those First Amendment auditors. Like I think they're a strain on society and I don't like a lot of them, but I enjoy the shit out of the freaking content they post, whatnot, because it's teaching a lot of people. Like I don't like what they're doing, but at the same time, it's kind of necessary because a
It's
lot of people
good to
don't know their
know.
rights.
It's
They don't know
good
their
to know
rights
your
like
rights.
at
Yeah,
all.
yeah. But
They don't know like exactly what you just said about administrative warrant. Like like honestly, like I'm not trying to say anything like you didn't know this before, but did you learn something from like a one of those First Amendment auditors, or did you know this stuff? Because
I I
I don't like that stuff.
I learned it. I learned about that actually during the first Trump administration when there was a lot of scaring
Okay.
tactics going on. But that being said, like I'm in a very odd situation because I haven't quite revoked my I don't regret my Trump vote yet, but there's some shit happening that if it's true, because I don't know if it's
Oh,
true
you're gonna
even.
get eaten alive for that.
Oh, I already am, dude. I'm getting well because oh my god, every time I bring up the 14th Amendment, I'm like, listen, I'm not saying Trump's the Antichrist. I'm just saying that the president can't do it. I'd be saying the same thing if Biden tried to do it. Because this
I think it's gonna happen.
it can't.
I think it's gonna work. I
It
don't know. Like
can't.
I was looking it up earlier, and there's a lot of articles saying he can. So I don't know.
No, he can't be. And here's the thing. This is why I say he can't. The president of the United States cannot repeal or amend an act of Congress or the United States Constitution. The only
And
way
I may have I may have read wrong. So just be mindful of that too.
that
I was only
remains to be
skimming.
seen. That remains to be seen, Toast. Like this isn't a Trump thing. This is a government thing. The
Fuck yeah, he
president.
is. He's way better already. Like that is not to be seen. Like he's
No, but
already
okay,
taken.
okay. Hang on. I'm gonna be devil's advocate here for a moment. Based upon what metric? See, I am gonna get eaten alive.
Energy, like literally energy. Like he's already like working on to lower the prices of energy. Like that they reenacted like a lot of the
Okay, that
what
fair,
was
fair.
it? The facts you guys can talk about. What?
What?
I think that might have been typo.
Referee français, mon ami de Canada, du Canada,
Voulez-vous
not de.
battre?
What was I gonna say? Yeah. So I knew that was a
Oh
rhetorical
yeah, yeah,
question.
yeah. We'd be talking about Biden falling down the stairs and the high gas prices and high egg cost. Like even though eggs aren't coming down, but everyone's like, oh, it's not coming down. It's like it's
Actually,
winter.
I did see a meme that I found particularly funny, even though it was anti-Trump. It is Biden administration. They're like, eggs are too high, and then it cut to Trump administration. It was the same person but wearing glasses with the "Make America Great Again" hat. It's like, well, actually, the price of eggs is a
Exactly,
really,
toast.
really intricate economic algorithm. It's funny. That's true. We do have content, and it's going to be a great 4 years for comedians.
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't heard too many funny jokes against Trump right now. Like it seems a lot of the comedians are on his side right now.
Well, yeah, because
Even
they're.
Dave Chappelle,
But
he
here's
started off a new bit and it was like kind of against Trump, but then he pulled it around for full circle, and I was like,
Well,
"What?"
yeah, because comedians got sick and tired of being crucified when they made a joke. So I get it.
Yeah, by the side that votes for the other guys.
Oh God, this
I
one's great. So yeah, suffice it to say, without just getting into a cluster about immigration, there's a lot of, and I think Trump could do some really good things with immigration. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'll give you the condensed version.
agreed, toast.
My whole thing is what I would have done if I were Trump. I would have been like, listen,
Driving.
I want the wall, but I'm going to give you something. Let me build the wall. Let me build it, and in exchange, we'll work out something for DACA. We'll work out something for the people here, not citizenship, but something, particularly those with families and lives. Some people have had lives here for decades. Like, it's just, it's not easy or simple, but I think there's a humane way to do it.
It's the most fantastic Trump.
It's the most fantastic Trump. Actually, Shane Gillis does a great Trump. Kind of like it more. Abu. He died like a dog. Ah, but anyway,
It's a boo.
it's Joel.
What is that from? It's George.
That's
Oh
Shane
no,
Gillis.
it's
I know,
George.
I know how we won.
Ah!
It's George. The next one was a memorandum removing environmental protections for the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta. The memorandum titled, quote, Putting People Over Fish, Stopping Radical Environmentalism to Provide Water to Southern California. Trump ordered water from California's Sacramento San Joaquin Delta to be redirected for use in the rest of the state, overruling environmental protections of the wildlife in the Delta. In an earlier post this month, Truth Social, he directed California Governor Gavin Newsom amid the wildfires in Southern California to, quote, release the water from up north, millions of gallons a day. What's taking you so long? And that is
Bro,
a
you better shut your mouth. I'm gonna kick your ass.
I can express. See, when I try to do it, I just sound like a speak and spell. You do it great. I still think we should have.
Water from up north. Yeah. Oh my God.
I
RFK.
still, I still think, man, I regret this so much. We should have done like a fake debate back when they
I
weren't on the
know,
same
but
team.
I thought about that and I was like, I respect RFK a lot, so like I just
Respect
want to make it
Trump.
known.
It's
Now
just
I'm not really no like that. Like I mean like I like RFK, and I don't want it to seem like I'm
they
hating on him because
apparent.
people think that when you do impressions you hate him.
That's what I'm saying. We could have done legit Halloween costumes, but apparently, by 2027, that red dye is supposed to be
Dude's buff.
banned.
Red dye 3. It's like red 40 is in everything, and red 40 also has effects on behavioral in kids behaviors in children and whatnot. And yet that's not even being talked about yet. I'm just like, dude, can we just get all the fake dyes out, like
Hey,
every
it's
single
something.
one,
I'll take it for the first
all
couple
of them?
days. I
I
know,
know, but
but we're talking.
oh yeah, okay, I agree with you, but red 3, I'm just like red 3 is linked to cancer. But I'm like, I'm not gonna say I haven't seen a label with red 3, but I see red 40 all the time. It's literally
Yeah,
in Doritos
yeah. At least
and yellow
American
fines in it.
Doritos.
Exactly. Toast, their food up there, they don't have it in there. They use, natural things to color their food, like yeah, carrots, beta carotene to make
Yeah.
orange.
So this is an interesting one. Trump's issued an executive order expanding the use of the federal death penalty.
Agreed, toast. Your food is much better.
It
All right,
really
what
is.
was it?
Was Trump reinstated the federal death penalty?
Oh,
Oh.
the death penalty was gone.
Biden, yeah, there was a moratorium on it. It never was made
Do you
illegal,
know
but
why
it
Biden
was.
got rid of that? He wouldn't get a death penalty or his kid, or whoever. I'm not saying his kid because
Who's gonna kill me? Come
what's
on,
funny is so, come on, man.
come on, man.
So many people were hating on Biden for pardoning his son, saying he wouldn't do it. And I was like, dude, I was like, look, if I was your kid and if I was president and if it was my kid, I'm sorry, I don't care what he did. He's getting pardoned.
Oh, you're gonna get ripped to
Sorry,
shreds for that one.
I don't care.
I don't
And
care either. But
that's one of the things I was like when it comes to family, it's like, I know his son's a drug addict and whatnot, but like, I mean,
he just
fuck, dude, like
Biden just turns to the camera. It's all
he's
about.
getting
It's all about. It's all about.
business.
It's all about family
No, he said
stuff
it's all about the Benjamins.
and Benjamins and the hoes.
Your anemic girlfriend can attest that. I'm assuming that's what unless I read that wrong.
Hey, Nika.
Tamika.
Hey,
Is she
Tamika.
tapioca pudding? The
Is
Benjamins,
is that
baby.
celiac?
Celiac disease.
Yeah, I said the Benjamins were the founding fathers of this country.
Red is in that.
Oh god. So yeah, basically,
Yeah, we do have a delay on the comments. Just tad.
so yeah. But
No, don't die.
he also directs the attorney general. Sorry, asked the attorney general to encourage state prosecutors to pursue the death penalty whenever applicable, and to ensure that the states have a quote sufficient supply of lethal injection drugs. Biden issues Biden issues commutations of 37 of 40 federal death row inmates in December, a presidential action that Trump cannot reverse. Because that would be a major dick move. Hey, you're not in death row anymore. Trump gives it is like, you're back in.
You're gay. Can
You're
we say that
gay.
now? We're gonna get canceled.
I don't think so.
We're bringing it back.
We're quoting Shane Gillis. Technically, it's part of his act. My opponent's gay.
How many more do we have left?
Um, there's a few, but I'll speed run through some because most of
Okay.
these are nonsensical. Um, okay, actually, here's one I actually agree with. So the memorandum on classical architecture for public buildings. Trump has directed that new federal buildings are to be designed in the classical Greco-Roman style and not in the more commonly used brutalist style. For those of you who don't know, brutalist architecture is all about efficiency and simplicity, and it's fucking ugly. Get rid of that shit. I like the Greco-Roman architecture,
Yeah.
so I'm actually cool with that.
Let's bring back Ronald McFucking Donald, man. Come on. Get that
I'm gonna
modern bullshit
kill
out of
that
here.
fucking clown. Can't do.
You'll get there. I haven't actually like practiced that one a lot. That one kind of came naturally, which is
I,
weird.
yeah, those are the best ones. There's another one facilitating facilitating the firing of civil servants, which I think we already addressed that. Uh, the one declaring a national energy emergency. So yeah, that one calls for a review of obstacles of domestic energy infrastructure, which he kind of already addressed. Uh, specifically, seemingly ones that have protections from things like the Endangered Species Act, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think that's on a case by case basis, though. There's a memorandum pausing certain wind energy projects that I'm all for because that's a colossal waste of money. at least with the
or
design, the windmill designs that we have currently.
costs more to produce,
Yeah.
then it's gonna offset for
It
like
doesn't,
20,
it does, yeah,
20,
it
30
doesn't
years.
offset its own immediate carbon footprint. There's another executive order to pause U.S. foreign aid. Legally, he can, but I also agree it really shouldn't be solely in the purview of the executive branch. Memorandum on organizing the National Security Council, which that's exactly what it sounds
Ridiculously
like.
late.
Pulling out of OECD's global tax deal. The global tax deal, which was signed in October 2021, would have ended competitive reductions in corporate taxes. So this is protecting corporate tax incentives, basically. Executive order to tighten immigration laws and restrict federal funds to sanctuary cities. This one he's going to have trouble with because Congress makes federal spending decisions. I don't think Trump has the constitutional authority to withhold funds from states. I don't think he can do that. So that's why a bunch of these sanctuary states are telling him to suck it because I don't think he can actually do that. There's another executive order repealing Biden era environmental protections and promoting the resource extraction in Alaska. So basically, that area that
See you,
Trump
toast.
wanted to drill, see you, buddy. That area in Alaska that they wanted to drill in Trump's first term, and Biden said, no, you can't do that because of polar bears. Yeah, they're going to drill it now.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I said. Uh,
Because cheaper gas equals cheaper prices everywhere. Like literally, this is fucking economy 101.
yep. There's another executive order restricting
It's
visa
gotta
seekers
get
from
there.
certain countries. So this is essentially just bringing back what his so-called Muslim travel ban.
Hmm.
So that's the same thing. Executive order calling for an American first foreign policy approach. Whatever doesn't really do anything. The executive order establishing Doge, which it's okay. So
That's so
this is
cringy.
well, but here's the funny thing. So this is actually kind of clever on Trump's part. So Trump doesn't have the constitutional authority to create a federal agency, but he can rebrand one, and that's exactly what he did. So he basically just renamed another agency into the Department of Government Efficiency.
Smart.
Yeah, because he didn't he can't create a federal agency. That has to happen through Congress, but he can amend one. Executive order defining gender and rolling back transgender protections. So here's my only problem with this is the way this is written. I'm not saying it's compelled speech, but it might be. I'm not really sure on this one.
Say it again.
So the thing that I have is okay, Trump outlined federal definitions of women and girls as females and men and boys as males, defining male and female as biological, binary, and immutable. The order seeks to remove the protections of gender identity and gender ideology from federal policies, communications, IDs, and more. The order calls for imprisoned trans men to be detained in women's prisons. Wait, yeah, imprisoned trans men to be detained in women's prisons and trans women in men's prisons, and it calls for agencies to restrict the intimate spaces by sex and not identity. Most of that I don't really have an issue with. The problem I have is that so first of all, the genius who wrote this, I'm calling verbatim. So this thing should be thrown out just for being bad. It can be rewritten and redone. I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but basically, the jackass who drafted this defines women and girl defines female as the sexual. God damn it, the the gamete at conception with the large gamete. Hang on, I'm gonna Trump says all
Gamey. Like a fucking
gamete.
deer. Gamete.
Okay, hang on. Let's see. Do-do-do-do. Okay. The executive order declares there are only two sexes, male and female. No problem there. Well, in okay. Anyway, I'm just going to keep reading. And defines a female as a quote a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. The order defines male as quote a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. Here's the problem with that. Technically speaking, at conception,
We're all
it
female.
doesn't. It well, so not just that. Um, it doesn't produce any cell at conception. And technically speaking, every embryo starts as female, and then as the cells continue to divide, and I mean, this is fairly late stage when the male qualities in an XY embryo start to form. That's actually, fun fact, that's why men have nipples, if you didn't know. That's why.
I have nipples, Greg.
Can you milk me?
Can you milk
No,
me?
because you changed in utero, which is also incidentally how like legitimate intersex people happen because somewhere along the developmental line the genetics have an
Hey,
abnormality.
I can take an array of dangerous drugs to make me lactate, so I can feed my infant with it. I can't
Oh
believe
god.
they were doing that.
So my
You knew
only
about that,
problem,
right?
yeah, yeah. My
Okay.
only problem with this is like I said, I'm not saying this is compelled speech, but it's to me at least it's kind of knocking on the door and I'm not it's one
That's odd.
it's one step away from the government saying no, you can't identify as non-binary because technically you can if you want to, whether or
I
not the
mean, you
rest of the
can if
world
you want to.
that
You
but
just in
that's what I'm
official
saying.
capacities you cannot, like on your driver's license, on your
Right,
donor,
here's
you know,
well,
this other
and
things.
I think it depends on
If
how
it's your
this is
fucking,
applied.
I don't know. I don't see why people need like to. If you want
I
to live that
agree.
way, fine. You don't
I
need
yeah.
to like have your driver's license say it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't I think we're gonna have to watch this one play out because obviously they're gonna get sued. I think this is a little too close to compelled speech, but some of the things in spirit I'm not really against, but at the same time, I don't give a shit.
They're just slinging shit at the wall to see what sticks.
I mean, basically, yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. Executive order
They got a dartboard and everything. All right, transgender. That's the one today. Transgender. Let's do it.
there was another executive order ending DEI programs in the executive branch. Mm. And then another one
Mm.
calling for merit. Another one calling for merit-based federal hiring, which I'm for if it's actual merit and not if you're on
Yeah,
my team, you're in.
that's merit enough. Merita.
This is welcome to Merita. We got three left. Okay, so there's another one that designates certain Latin American gangs and cartels as terrorist organizations.
Sure. MS-13 and the other one.
Specifically MS-13 and Tren de Aragua.
Yeah, that one.
The problem with this, though, is it says that he plans to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to
Yeah.
deport anyone designated as a terrorist. The problem is that law actually pretty clearly states that that has to be an invading army, meaning that it is subject to it's an army of a foreign nation. I'm not necessarily against this, but it depends on what he wants to do with it. Because if this means military strikes inside a sovereign nation without their consent, that gets dicey. That gets real dicey.
It does get dicey.
It gets pretty dicey.
What in the world?
Sometimes literally. And then there was an executive
Greasy
order.
feedback. Sorry.
There was an executive order to rename Denali Mount McKinley again. What's up, Hydro? Do we know Hydro?
Yeah, it's my nephew.
I thought so. Yeah.
So,
I was like,
Chris.
I've seen
He's
that
like,
icon before. But probably Trump's renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and this is such a fucking waste of. time and resources. This is so fucking stupid.
Well, I think it's because they're taking back control of the Panama Canal, right?
Well, that's
Like,
unrelated.
how's that gonna work?
It's
What
not.
is
We
the
gave it.
Panama Canal not in the Gulf?
No, no, that's way down.
Oh, I don't see. I don't fucking know anything.
It's
See,
in. It's
I'm an
in.
uneducated American with money
It's
on my
in.
mind, with
It's
a
in
grin in
Panama.
my hand, a grin in my
Um,
eye. Fucked up. Dude, what
and
is going
then
on with my fucking mic?
last but not least, a proclamation declaring a quote invasion and restricting entry into the U.S. This one, I got a really fucking, I got a real fucking problem with this because what this is this is part of, if I'm not mistaken, this is part of how he's suspended the CBP One app. Which, don't get me wrong, that app had a lot of problems, had a lot of issues. But what he's effectively done is made it so that people cannot apply for asylum outside of the United States.
Say that one more time. My shit's messing up.
Oh, well, Trump suspended the CBP One app.
Hmm.
So what he's effectively done is now people cannot apply for asylum outside of the United States, at least not in an orderly, efficient fashion. And here's the
Oh,
thing: asylum is codified under the law. Like Trump cannot suspend asylum legally. He cannot do that.
no, but they can look at asylum seekers more, you know, closely, like, and be like, oh, so are you actually claiming asylum? Because a lot of people claim asylum and then they're not actually
Well,
asylees,
but
like
here's the problem with suspending
according
the
to
app.
our official.
Well, but here's the problem with suspending. So what people were able to do is they were able to schedule appointments outside of the United States, and then the app would alert them when they could go for their appointment and have their initial hearing. But now they can't do that, and the biggest problem I have is people that had scheduled appointments had them canceled. And I think
They should be
that's
grandfathered
fucking
in. The people
I
that
I
had them,
agree. I
I'd be okay
agree.
with that.
I agree. And that I think that's horseshit. Um
But
and then
at the same time, they're shutting everything down. So, unfortunately, you can, like, everyone's gonna get all up in arms at Trump over this, but at the same time, you guys got to blame Biden on this, because the thing
I
is, like,
do. I blame
he has to just stop everything, because, unfortunately, it's like a parent, who has to discipline their child. The child's going to hate them for it, but in the long run, it's going to eventually get them to understand that their
I don't
actions have consequences.
I don't think so. And my issue isn't so much that he's shutting things down, is that he's shutting things down without an alternative. So for example, like I said, I mentioned earlier, he shut down the parole for those four countries. That was all
That's why I
legal.
said sometimes there's no alternative. You have to shut it down, take a
Well,
breath,
but
and then just be like, oh,
that doesn't make sense because people were coming through that parole legally. It was a legal way to enter the United States temporarily, but you were
well,
authorized.
they shouldn't be just shut out. They should just be on hold. Like, but like essentially, when it comes back, I don't know.
Well,
It's just
but
it's
the
all a big
problem
mess right now.
I agree, but the problem with Trump's rhetoric on the matter is that he's getting rid of parole so that if somebody's here on parole now and when it expires, what are they supposed to do? There's no I mean, technically they can file an asylum claim, but if they don't have a legitimate asylum claim under the law, then it's basically by definition a frivolous lawsuit because they're going to have a hearing and backlog the courts and they're going to have their hearing, and then when they don't meet the burden of proof, they're going to get a removal order anyway. So it's just creating issues where there shouldn't be any, is I guess my biggest problem.
Don't start nothing, won't be nothing.
I don't know though. We'll see. The immigration thing. Personally, I think Trump's fucking up royally on that front because he could have already had some really big wins and gotten what he wanted by working with the system as opposed to just being like, we're gonna shut it all down. It's fucking dumb
All of
because,
it gone.
well, no, here's the thing. Okay, you want to deport, according to him, he wants to deport violent criminals and people with existing removal orders. Okay, that not a problem with that. You're not going to get cooperation with that when you're making everybody afraid that they're up for deportation, even though legally they, under the law, technically some people aren't. Because, for example, if you have a valid pending asylum case, you cannot be deported without basically a felony conviction. And even if you lose your asylum case, you can appeal it. And as long as you have a pending case, your status is legal for now. If you have temporary protected status, you cannot be deported absent of a felony conviction. And if you have TPS, you can have a valid legal work permit and you can have a social security number and you're going to pay taxes. So these are all legal statuses, but you're not undocumented, but a lot of people misconstrue illegal and undocumented. It's kind of fucked. So you're legally in the United States, but you don't have permanent status is the issue, if that makes sense. Because US immigration law is actually really fucking complicated and vague. It's a little fucked. And most people don't know that. Most people, like again, most people are under the impression that you can just come over the border, marry an American, and you're automatically a citizen. That is not even remotely close to accurate. Like just so you guys know, if you are somebody who is undocumented, or even if you're here legally, mind you, as an immigrant, and you marry an American citizen, you have to apply for that marriage-based green card. And now, granted, USCIS, it seems, based on what I've read, they've been foregoing the marriage interviews, but you have to submit evidence. And now it's required you have to do a medical exam if you're the immigrant in question. And if you do get called in for an interview, you have to sit down with an immigration officer. And if they just decide that they don't think your relationship is credible, your green card's denied.
Damn.
Yeah. So it's not the narrative for that a lot of Americans believe is that people are coming across the southern border, hiring Americans to marry them for 2 years so that they get citizenship. Well, that's really hard to do. Like, because they're looking for that shit.
That was in movies and TV, like when we were younger. Like people
Yeah,
were
it
always
was.
talking about that kind of stuff. And that's why a lot of people thought it was so easy to do was because it was
Yeah.
just in the movies.
Well, they
And
made they
in
made it seem
reality,
like yeah, they made it seem like it was automatic. Like, oh, they married an
you
American.
get citizenship.
They're a citizen now. No, you don't even get citizenship. So you have to get your green card first. And then after I forget how long you have to have had it, but then you can apply for citizenship, and that typically takes anywhere from 5 to 10 years. So it's not a quick process. It's not. You can
Oh,
literally
oh, boy.
yeah. Anyway,
Sorry.
that was all the day one executive orders. We've been at this a little bit longer, and I totally forgot the second sponsor. Um, basically, long story short, I'll tell you guys now. Our friends at Pogo want to help put a little bit of extra money in your pocket. Pogo is an app that trust me, you're not going to get rich off of it. But honestly, for these kinds of apps, it pays pretty well. I've been using it for years, and they've extended a special offer. If you sign up using the link and promo code in the description, you get an extra 250 points added to your balance. I can't remember what the threshold is. It's five. Once you get 5,000 points, you get an extra 250. Now that sounds like a lot, but you actually do accrue points pretty quick with this app, so you'll get to 5,000 in no time. It's just some extra money for stuff that it's stuff you're doing anyway. Some of the rewards you get are just by driving by certain places. So yeah, it's a nice way to have a little bit of extra pocket change. Every couple of days you can buy yourself lunch, literally. But sign up for Pogo today and use our special code to get your bonus 250 points.
Link in description.
Link in the description. And check out our other podcasts. And if you disagree with us about anything we said, let us know in the comments. I would ask you to be civil, but I know that's not going to happen. So just be warned. You get snarky in the comments, this guy is coming after you.
I've been very quiet here lately,
You,
so I think it's time to make a comeback.
I love how you just agree with that one person that said that you being an idiot. You're like, yeah, pretty much. What did she call you? I
No,
can't
no, no. She basically said I was useless on that. I was like, yeah, pretty much.
remember. Yeah, because I don't know who this dude is. But anyway, that is all. We will see you guys on Sunday, hopefully.
Keep
Schedules
hard.
suck. Keep hard.
Yeah.
Oh, keep hard. Keep hard warriors. Anyway, this has been the Average Intelligence Podcast. Hopefully, you're a little bit less average and a little bit more intelligent. Tonight, you might be. Normally, that bar's pretty low, but tonight you actually might be. So, thank you for watching. Check out our sponsors. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys on Sunday's our normal day. So, we'll,
And
we'll
head on
see you
down to
then.
Taco Bell to get a Baja Blast.
Yeah, hey, RFK, what do you get down
Get
at
out of
Taco
here.
Bell?
I get me one of them crunch wraps of creams with no tomato. I don't like tomatoes.
Does it have the red dye in it?
I can't.